video is a little different because I am actually going to show you guys a little bit of my process on Procreate. I wouldn't say that this is like the perfect or best example of my process, but it is my first go at filming myself actually, I guess you would say, finishing a full painting on Procreate. So if you'd like to join me on this journey as I complete this painting of a snake curled up on a log, I'm Rorifluent. Feel free to call me Rory. If you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my guys? Let's get into this video. After completing my pumpkin painting in my sketchbook, I really just decided that I wanted to complete all of my paintings digitally on Procreate on my tablet because, I don't know, I was getting a lot more enjoyment and feeling a lot more fulfilled by the projects that I was completing on my tablet and not so much by the full paintings I was completing in my sketchbook. And so for my next sketchbook, I am going to entirely do all of my sketches in my sketchbook and smaller paintings or smaller doodles, just like you've seen, and I don't want to have any finished paintings in it because I'm just really enjoying Procreate and I really want to take advantage of that to learn Procreate to the best of my ability because I am by no means a master. I got this tablet for Christmas last year. I used it during my degree, the last semester of my degree actually. I used it to create some illustrations and I definitely got better with practice, and now I'm at a point where I really wanted to start trying to do finalized and finished paintings, and the second that I completed one, which this was kind of my first stab at it, I was like, this is amazing. I love this so much. I had a lot of fun completing the painting, and I really want to hold on to that, and I don't know, I'm okay with clinging on to this new medium if it means I'm, learning, and if it means I want to complete full paintings. For this particular piece, I am painting a snake sitting on a log, and I'm really, really trying to learn some lighting. I don't really know what I mean by that. I'm really trying to have a clear foreground, background, middle ground, and I'm trying to distinguish them with lighting, and I'm kind of having this whole thing backlit a little bit, and I don't know, maybe watching the video, I'll be able to come up with a better way of doing it, or a way where the lighting is an even bigger part of the piece, because I don't know, that is also one of the nice things about Procreate, is that obviously you can go back and what's the word? You can tweak things, even though you've sort of finished it. And I don't always love that because I know especially for learning artists, it's really hard to let go of your mistakes when you constantly have an undo button. So I would never recommend it for new artists. Always just pick up a paper, pencil, and an eraser and just open up a sketchbook and doodle, because there's just no reason to focus on perfection at that point, because especially when you're just starting out, you don't even know how you want to draw and paint, so what's the point in constantly undoing everything when you're just trying to learn? But I'm fairly happy with the way this painting turned out. I just don't know that the contrast is exactly where I wanted it to be, but I'm also not super confident in my ability to make the contrast more of a juxtaposition and more aggressive. I loved the sketch for this. I had a fun time drawing it, and I had a great time tracing the sketch that I had in my sketchbook into Procreate, and I was just all around having a really nice time starting this painting, and then we'll see how it goes when I start to paint it. Currently, I am swatching colors, figuring out what colors I want to use, a general color scheme, and just kind of laying out this sort of one layer flat of all of the colors that I want to use and where I want them to go. It's kind of like a color thumbnail. I'm just sampling different colors and trying to lay them down to see where I need to place each color, because I didn't necessarily go into this with like an exact idea of the time of year that I wanted this sort of foresty painting to be, and I kind of wish I had, because it would have helped me select colors a bit quicker. But I do end up on kind of like a summer turning into fall theme in the color story of the piece. Once I was happy with the colors, I sit down and start naming all of my layers, because if there's one thing I learned from my graphic design background, it is that naming layers is of the utmost importance. Keeping track of every little detail that you want to put on each individual layer really helps, so that you don't end up erasing something later that you really liked because, I don't know, you didn't like the color that you painted it on, but hated, the color. Yeah, oh my god. You hated the color, but, you liked the shape, so then you have to get rid of both if you had both your line work and your color on the same layer. And so I always name all of my layers and keep track of them to the best of my ability. I almost always have like multiple color layers, because you're going to need, I have like a foreground layer, a background layer, and a middle ground layer, where I'm layering colors on top of each other depending on the subject matter and where it is in the piece. And so I always try to have like 3 or 4 different color layers going, where I'm not always just having to color over something on the same layer, but it's actually a part of the layer underneath. But I really just enjoy Procreate so much. I have so much fun with it. I'll probably put up the 2 brush packs that I have. They're max packs for anyone wondering, and it's the retro max pack and the watercolor max pack, and I'm using both here, and I really, really love them. They genuinely gave me like everything that I need to be able to create work in the style that I've curated, and that was like really exciting, finding the right brushes. Not that the brushes that Procreate comes with are bad, they're really not, and to just start out and see if you're even gonna like digital art, it's a fantastic start. But I definitely knew that it was something I wanted to get into, so I started, got my tablet and had the watercolor max pack, and then just recently I got the retro one because it has soft pastels, gouache, graphite. It just had some lovely textures that I was really missing in my digital art. I don't even actually use soft pastels. I'm hopefully going to get some for Christmas, but I've never used them like in my traditional media. But oh my god, I love the soft pastel brushes. It's like almost entirely what I'm using on this piece. The like blotchy, soft texture that the soft pastel gives the traditional painting is just like, it's so good. I love it so much. And then I love like laying down flats with watercolors, and the opacity of the gouache brushes are really, really nice, and they also lend a fantastic texture to pieces, which is just definitely what you're always, or at least in my opinion, you're always lacking in digital art, is a need for texture. Okay, you really, really want, especially if you want it to look like traditional art, brushes that are going to give you a wide array of have strokes that are going to be able to be textured in different ways, so that the colored pencil looks different than the soft pastel, looks different than a watercolor brush, looks different than gouache, and so on and so forth, because that's what really, I don't know, makes painting like this really fun for me. Being able to just switch to brushes and different brushes to have different textures at my fingertips has been just so much fun. I do a little bit of the painting while I'm at work the same day that I'm filming this, so you can kind of see that I have a little bit of the background figured out. You know, I was just kind of laying down some more colors, and then I felt a little lost, so I wanted to find a reference that would kind of help me do what I'm trying to do here. And once I find that reference, I definitely feel like everything starts to slot into place, and I'm kind of just chipping away at the piece to try and figure out what it is that I need to do to make it look the way that I want to. One of my favorite parts about Procreate is the fact that you can kind of, I don't know, you can work the way that you want to work in it. So when I'm doing my layers and creating my layers, I keep in mind building from dark to light, almost like I'm working with gouache, though naturally, traditionally, I use watercolor, so I'm really used to working from light to dark. But I found when picking up my tablet that it was a lot easier to, I don't know, like understand what to do if I laid down a darker color and then went over top of it with a lighter one. And that's kind of why I talk about it like I'm sculpting or chipping away at something, because especially when I'm using opaque mediums, to me that's exactly what it feels like I'm literally like sculpting this thing out of nothing. Where to me with watercolor, it kind of just feels like I'm adding flushes of color, and I'm still like sculpting and hopefully bringing my sketches and whatever I'm painting in watercolor to life. But there's something really specific about the way that I've been going about, using Procreate that feels very much like I'm thinking a lot more about my layers. As you can tell, my cat was pretty aggravated while I was on my tablet finishing this painting. He really wanted my attention, probably food, and I was just kind of like, can you give me 3 more minutes so that I can finish this thing? I didn't want to get up and get him anything because he was fine, and he just kept jumping back up on my table because he doesn't know how to take no. The middle ground bushes definitely gave me like a run for my money. I was really trying to figure out what value or shade of green I'm trying to make those bushes, because I don't know, I just didn't want everything to bleed together in the background, and I do think that I end up darkening that the very background a few shades darker, actually, because I step away and come back and realize that it needs that contrast desperately, and that definitely helps distinguish the background from the middle ground to the foreground. But I still, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, feel like maybe I didn't accomplish like exactly the amount of contrast that I was hoping to get out of this. Watching the line work on my tablet is even like more satisfying, weirdly, than watching me complete the line work traditionally. And I don't know why, but I don't know, I just had like a lot of fun watching this snake come to life on his little tree stump. That's what they're called. I was almost gonna call it a tree branch, and I was like, that's not what he's sitting on. It was also definitely by the end of me kind of finalizing and completing this piece that I realized, or at least got like a better grasp on how to go about like filming on my tablet. I feel like you guys have a much better view of what I'm doing, and I'm zooming in a lot more purposefully, and honestly, like, I think the way that I ink just generally lends itself well to being filmed on my tablet, because I always zoom in really, really close to what I'm inking, or the part of the piece that I'm inking, so that I can get the lines that I want. As I'm adding little touch-ups in the video, I also wanted to mention that is kind of like why I emphasize the importance of layering and layers in Procreate or any digital media, because after I'm done with the line work, my line work is on an entirely separate layer as all of my colors, as my sketch, my highlights, my shadows, they're all in separate layers. And then if I'm experimenting with something, like let's say the texture on the trees, those sort of orange speckled dots that are kind of supposed to represent like leaves or the turning of the trees towards the season of fall. Anyways, the importance of that is that I can go back to one of my layers, let's say the color layer, the foreground color layer, and I can be like, I want to add a little bit more colored pencil here, and I can do that, and it's not going over top of the line work that I just completed. It's one of the most satisfying parts of working digitally, is just having the ability to fuck with layers and move layers around and figure out what you want to do in terms of how you want to build your color. And I really enjoy that, and I enjoy the entire process, honestly, especially right now. I don't know, I'm really digging it. And after all of that talk about layers, I realized that I accidentally inked my snake on the sketch layer instead of my final line work layer, which hurt my soul, but it's okay. I quickly fixed it, and it really wasn't a big deal. With those final adjustments, that is my first Procreate painting. I don't know, I think it turned out okay. I'd love to know anybody's thoughts if they'd like to give them. I'm pretty happy with it, and I had a lot of fun experimenting with the lighting, and I don't know, just trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to knock everything back and bring certain elements forward. And I thought that was just something that was really enjoyable for me to experiment with, and something that I want to continue to experiment with, because I definitely think lighting is my weakness right now. It's just not something that I've ever taken the time to really practice, and so I'm trying to give myself challenges where I can really practice lighting and figuring out how lighting interacts with objects, so that I can just have a solid understanding of how, I don't know, the light might hit anything that I want to draw and paint, and just add that little bit of I don't know, professionalism to my work. So if you've made it this long into the video, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully talk to you in the next one.